filled, but it's actually under that coat of paint that
you
sits
hit
the
or will you
real
miss?
engineering, which is the neural drive. Each frame carries several neural drive partitions labeled
Always
alpha,
miss.
beta, and
Oh,
gamma.
wait, what?
Every partition has 3 chip slots that
99%
accept red, yellow,
chance to
or
hit.
blue chips of the matching color. Equipping a chip will boost the power of that partition. If you reach the required power threshold and the partition activates its perk, anything from higher accuracy to wider sensor cones are available. There are also rare chips that you can find, and chips that are available as conditional bonuses for events.
This island is a vast prison where everyone is trapped. Just like me. I'm going to change all that. You'll help me, won't you?
On the other hand, pilots have access to the Bionic Computer. It's here that you'll find a circuit board skill tree where units unlock in a set order along glowing paths, and each category does something different. Class units grant universal boosts tied to the pilot's role. Core units unlock active or passive skills, and each pilot can equip up to 3 of them on the status screen. Crystal units open new neural drive partitions as well, where expansion units raise the computational power cap so you can push even more chips into a build. Link units then act as connectors and quietly raise base stats like aim or evasion while you travel between major nodes. Materials from these unlocks are received from the elite campaign stages, so diving into higher tier missions feeds back into more complex builds. The whole system encourages tinkering, where you swap one chip, shift a partition, or equip a new core skill, and the mech handles differently the next sortie. While hardware explains what a mech can do, pilots explain why you actually care. Each operator levels on their own track, carries a star rating, and unlocks a signature talent. The operator Kite bumps critical hit chance when no ally stands nearby, which does encourage flanking with this unit. On the other hand, Harper gains evasion bonuses behind cover, turning narrow allies into safe firing lanes. Story skits pop up between sorties, and it's here that the GKD squad debates contracts, rival factories sabotage prototypes, and friendships form when a common enemy is found. The scenes take a minute or 2 at most, but I do say that they add flavor, build stakes, and then you get to go right back into the cockpit. The character illustrations also keep things pretty lively. There's traditional fight suits that sit side by side with jackets that look straight out of street fashion, so if you're looking for your waifu or bando here, well, you might just find
Bando.
them. I should add that some characters stand out than others, but I don't feel like it drifts into parody.
God.
Booby.
Maybe I'll mess with it, but no, not anytime soon. Like an anime that's out this season, we're not doing that. Is this a GU appreciation video?
I knew that this was going to happen eventually. I was sitting in my room and I desperately wanted to just
The
have a
volume is so
game
low.
possess me for a while. So, with Monster Hunter Wilds not really having any more content for me to explore, I decided to try out GU. I quickly figured out how to get an emulator and to get the game for the PC. And I tried it for the first time. After playing for some hours and finally feeling like I wanted to put the controller down, I looked out the window. It was 7 a.m. in the morning. I could see the light of day starting to come up from the horizon. I had played Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate for almost 16 hours non-stop. And this was the first time that I tried it. So yeah, today's video is gonna be about my impressions of GU and just in general the tremendous contrast that this experience has shown me when you compare that even GU, which is supposed to be 5th gen, you can compare it to Monster Hunter World and Rise and the new titles, and you can see the stark differences between the design decisions. So,
Monster
first of all,
Hunter.
obviously GU is a game that doesn't have like a high level of graphical fidelity, but it really does not matter. I couldn't care less about that because the gameplay is just stellar.
This is peak Monster
And so,
Hunter.
one of the first things that called my attention was this whole thing about the styles. You know, you have different weapons with different styles and hunter arts. And the truth is that the idea of styles is something that we have seen in New Gen, for the most part in Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak, where they give you a bunch of options to customize the way that you play. But the truth is that just in general, styles are like this cool addition to allow you to play the weapon with slightly different changes in gameplay that still manage to make the experience refreshing. And because I'm such a one-weapon Andy, obviously, I mostly played with Charge Blade. I am playing like, I think it's, I'm playing Adept Charge Blade, I think. And for the most part, it has been amazing. Weapon combos are not very complicated from what I've seen. For example, I also tried Switch Axe, and Switch Axe has a very simple combo. It's like, people complain that in Wilds you spam triangle until the monsters are dead, and Switch Axe is kind of like that. Now, granted, I am obviously very inexperienced with that weapon, but for the most part, that's what I was doing, especially when I was farming Malfestio later on. But yeah, okay, so one thing that I have to make clear is that I went in completely blind. I didn't want to check any guides. I didn't want to check any kind of instructions as to what to do in the game, because I wanted to see just how good is GU at onboarding new players. In a time where you could still see a lot of the old gen designed in the game. And for the most part, I wouldn't say that the game does a bad job at onboarding players. The only problem is that you really have to pay attention to the things that are presented to you, especially in text, especially in the dialogues. I think that sadly this type of design has become really incompatible with today's design. People want to understand things as fast as possible, and simply sitting there reading instructions or reading tutorials. Like, even back in the day, people would skip tutorials, but they would still at least stop to read what the NPCs had to say, mostly to have a general understanding of what is going on. And I feel like today, there's this whole just resistance or complete disregard for the information that can be presented to you via text, which can sometimes be vital to your experience. So I've managed to have a fairly good experience only by reading what the NPCs are telling me to do, or by reading the different tutorials. But I understand that it's very likely that there's a bunch of things that I'm still not...
Parrying while you were charging your fucking
because
sword attack was peak, though. That was good.
Monster Hunter has always been like this.
That felt nice.
Some things that you're not really going to understand just right away, unless somebody tells you about them, or unless you've been playing for so long that you eventually stumble upon it, right? Now, the combat. Monster Hunter has always been praised for
that's
combat,
fine.
and to be fair, GU holds extremely
The Starlight
well.
Red Fairy
That
Dragon.
said,
and then the Green
I
Fairy
can
Dragon.
completely see
He's not rolling for fats.
that old gen
No, I
can
just
be
had
very
these.
frustrating
Oh.
for people that have played mostly
I just
new
haven't
gen
activated
games.
all of them. They're all
And this
sitting
is
in my
because
inventory,
everything
my
is a lot
pointed
more
inventory,
stiff.
and I kind of
Oh.
decided
But at
to
the
do
same
something with them
time,
now.
it's simple yet deep. And this is a concept that I think we have to embrace more just in general. I think the reason why Monster Hunter combat is so good is because it's not particularly difficult, despite the meme that Charge Blade is this like fucking 200 IQ weapon. The game plan that you're following is rather straightforward. And it's if you can reduce the weapon to its more important elements, you will find that it is not particularly difficult to play it, and like finding that simplicity is where you can find the true depth of many of the weapons in the game, right? Now, I will give it to old gen that the games were extremely punishing just in general. A lot of people like to rave about this idea that restocking is like killing difficulty, but I don't think that's an argument that can hold up very well, mostly because I can see the intention for devs to give you different options
And I completely disagree with that point, but we'll continue.
to have more healing items, right? You can still craft on the go, at least in GU. You can do this thing where you zone out. You know, you go to a different zone to take some distance from the monsters, so that you can have some breathing space to heal.
And you are still limited by the fixed amount of potions you bring instead of having 3,000 fucking you know, mega potions sitting in the camp when you get back. So, anyways. Wrong.
Sharpen, do whatever you want, and then you come back. And I think that in New Gen, they have just designed things differently so that you can still take that distance. You can still run away from the monster a lot faster than what they can follow you. And with that, you can potentially manage your resources like healing and sharpening and
Manage,
whatnot,
quote unquote.
without having the monster be on top of you. So I think that's an aspect that still remains. It simply has a
Not
different
really.
format now.
No, it's just buffed.
And I think it's because the Monster Hunter devs know that it can be extremely frustrating to deal with the onslaught of attacks that the monsters, even in low rank, in the case of GU, can sometimes throw at you, right? So, in that
I feel
sense,
like they should have limited it
it's
more,
very
but
interesting
whatever.
to see that for
Thought 'em in the
most
happy
part, there's a lot of
medium.
design aspects that
Man, if you aren't butt cheeks, yeah, you have to learn the monster. You have to actually sit there and go, oh, okay, you gotta figure this out with this monster instead of getting your ass beat and going, oh, I guess I'll go back to camp and then get more potions, come back, get my ass beat, run the whole 50-minute timer, but you know what, I won. But did you really?
change in essence.
Like, I get it. Using the game systems, cool. But I can definitely say you're a bad monster hunter. But hey, at least it's there, right? Shit. I feel like these mechanics are intended for, like, people who are actually disabled and have a hard time playing the video game. And it's just odd that people who have the capacity to learn to get good at it just don't care. They're just like, yeah, whatever. And I can't, they can't use the excuse if it's going to waste their time, because if you have time to sit there through like 2 hours of cutscenes on Wilds, you definitely have time to sit there for 2 hours learning like a boss or something. I don't know, Chief.
But they have
Anyways, I
changed
entirely
in the
disagree with this
way
point
that
this
they
guy
are
is making.
presented. And at least, for example, going from
It's like he sounds like he's making corporate business talk to you and trying to convince you it's something it's not,
GU to World,
even though it is what it is.
the way that they handled it was genius because
He's giving
it
you
was
the
still
business.
keeping that
Business.
level of threat, that feeling of pressure that the monster
Business.
can put out towards you. But you
Business.
still have tools to completely outrun them and to be able to avoid that constant pressure. Another aspect that really surprised me is that, well, you know how people complain that in Wilds, for example, there's not enough weight to status effects. And in GU, it is the complete opposite. Like, if a monster has the paralysis element, they will paralyze you in 1 or 2 hits. Like, it's gonna be a problem that you have to deal with to try and avoid getting paralyzed. If a monster has sleep element, if a monster has like a lot of KO damage, they will inflict status effects extremely quickly. And you know how in Base World, there were a lot of monsters that could poison you, and then if you go to Iceborne, there's like level 2 poison, right? Where you start losing health like extremely fast. For example, people that fought Viper Tobi Kadachi would find themselves against this problem, right? Where Tobi would poison you once, but then if you're hit with another poison attack, you would get like this really